Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, October 15th, 2025, and this is the Land Use Committee. I'll ask everybody to introduce themselves. I'm Jay Rosapepe, City Council member.
Eric Warden, City Council member.
Scott Diener, City Council member.
Rob Patonsus, Port Orchard Mayor.
Nick Bond, Community Development Director.
Jim Fisk, Principal Planner.
We have a published agenda. I've had a request to move item C, discussion multifamily tax exemption, to the front of the order. I don't have any issues with that. Does anybody else have any agenda changes or discussion on the agenda?
No.
Okay, then let's start with the multifamily tax exemption.
All right, good afternoon. I wanted to report back on the multifamily tax exemption ordinance, which is currently scheduled to go to a public hearing on October 28th. I did meet with the Kitsap Home Builders Association to talk about the proposed ordinance, and I think mostly they're happy to see that it's coming back. They wrote a letter, which is included in your packet, I believe. What did I say it was? Page 108, Jim?
107.
107 of the packet. And the official comment that they have made in that letter has to do with the affordability metrics. We had proposed on page 98 and 99 of your packet that when you're applying for a 12-year multifamily tax exemption, that 20% of the units be affordable and that they be at least 25% below the area fair market rent, which is published by HUD. And after talking with the KBA, they are pretty certain that no one is going to take us up on that offer for the affordable units unless it is lowered. They've asked for it to be lowered to 20, but one of the things that they pointed out is that when we're looking at rents, utilities are included in the rent. And so the amount of savings that somebody is getting excluding utilities is actually quite a bit more than including utilities. And so their suggestion is that we lower that. It's really up to the council whether they want to change it. It's just a numerical change within the code. Structurally, they were they said that there's a lot of cities that do have a different methodology, and I explained that this methodology is easier for us to administer, even though it's maybe less favorable to a tenant. Some cities actually say that the rent is capped based on them spending no more than 30% of their income on rent, rather than it being tied to the area fair market rent. But that means that for every unit, we're having to calculate what somebody's income is and what the rent is, and it's a whole lot more work for the city to administer. And so we've taken an approach that is meant to create units that are below market rate, but it doesn't necessarily correlate to a person's income other than they're either qualified for the unit or not qualified for the unit. So I'll stop there before moving on to the other comments that they had from our meeting, which aren't in the letter, and see if the Land Use Committee has any discussion.
So I have a question, Nick, and I'm going to ask you to back up on that one. So basically, they're fine with the 20% number of units. It's really the HUD market value. They would like that reduced from 25 to 20.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And the 20% of units being affordable, that's the minimum under state law. So we're following state law there. But in terms of the methodology for determining what the rent is, they would like it to be 20 instead of 20%, 25% below fair market rent.
Eric, Scott?
I have mixed feelings on it. I think we should just follow the state law.
Because you don't want to go 25%. You think it's too steep?
Well, maybe that's the discussion is it too steep?
You think the 5% could be the swing? Is that what I'm following?
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be the swing or not. Is that
and I know that the KBA folks can be brought in as panelists if you'd like to hear from them directly on this point. They are, of course, invited to the public hearing. I just wanted to have some discussion of this particular comment before we get to a more formal discussion of the city council.
Go ahead.
Bring them in. So again, your comment back to Nick, what you had said that again, being able to monitor this, does it matter whether it's 20 or 25%? This is what I was trying to,
It makes no difference to us in terms of how easy or difficult it is to administer the but I mean if fair market rent for a unit is $1,800 a month, the proposed code would say that you have to rent the unit for a 25% discount below that $1,800 per month, and that is that fair market rent includes utilities. So I think what they were saying is that that's considerably cheaper than a market rate apartment, which would not include utilities. And it's because the utilities are included in that factor that they're saying this is actually quite a bit more savings to the tenant than what was previously discussed. And anyway, I can provide some math on that in time for our council meeting. If you'd like more data, I haven't had time to pull that together yet.
I think that'd be helpful.
okay, and my question about that is, does that guarantee that utilities will be included in that, or do we have to specify that?
No, the law requires that the utilities be
Okay.
included. So
Thank you. Okay.
So Nick,
Eric?
based off your expertise, I'm kind of, if I remember right, you're the one that kind of thought 25% would be a good way to go. Is there a reason that you might be hesitant to not go 25?
Well-
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
yeah, so in the presentation that I gave you, if you remember the case study where we compared the Overlook apartments to the Paisno apartments, I had explained that the amount of savings going to the tenant every year for those affordable units was like 1/10 of the amount of savings going to the owner. But what wasn't included in that calculation is what the KBA pointed out, is that that did not factor in the utility savings that those tenants are getting. So it's still significantly more savings to the developer owner than to the tenant, but it's maybe not as drastic as the picture that had been painted. And so I think that I think we still need to increase from the 10% below fair market value, but whether it's 15, 20 or 25, I mean, it's at some point, if you push that too high, I don't think people are going to use the tool. And what KBA is saying is they don't think people are going to use the tool at 25%. They're just going to take the 8-year exemption and not provide the affordable housing.
What do they say about the 20%?
The 20% is not part of the comment because that's the percentage of units within the complex that have to be affordable. So that's in state law. So we're not tweaking that at all.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So, what I heard, Scott, was you'd like to see some more information come to us at council before making a decision on that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think Nick indicated he could put some numbers together.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. And I'm just, I had to turn off my camera because my computer locked me out and I need to sign back in here.
So, I mean, for Scott, are you wanting to look at it at 25, 20, and 15? Or are you just
I think
satisfied?
that's a good, Jay, I think that's a good spread.
Okay. So could you do that, Nick?
Yeah, I'll probably email that to the committee before the public hearing and then also provide it in the public hearing packet as well.
So I just want to point out too, on the 28th, we will be holding a public hearing, but not taking any action that evening. So Nick will give a presentation. You guys will have the data that he's asked for. We're going to hold a public hearing, and that's as far as we're going to take it. The soonest we would take action on this would be the November 18th meeting, because that'll be our next business meeting after that because of Veterans Day. So so you'll get a public hearing. You will get to hear from the home builders and others on this on the 28th, but we're not proposing to take action yet that evening.
One question I had on this, Nick and Jim, was economic development significantly increased. No, not significantly, but it increased the land that this would apply to. My question is, do you think that this is realistic? Does it meet our goals of where we're trying to get affordable housing located at within the city and obviously development?
Yeah, I mean, I think it meets our goals for where we want development to occur. I think in terms of affordable housing, if people choose to use the affordable option, it certainly moves the needle in terms of how affordable those units would be. But somebody has to actually want to use it. And so I think that's what the home builders are pointing out is at 25%, they think that people are not going to choose the 12-year option. They will choose the 8-year option and just provide units rather than a complex that includes affordable units and market rate units.
So most of the comments really focus on the 12-year and not the 8-year.
Well, that was their formal comment letter. There's a couple of other things I wanted to point out to you that are going to be minor tweaks to what you saw at work study, and I can jump into that once we're done with their comments.
Okay, I'm comfortable moving on. Scott, Eric?
Sure.
All right. So the other thing that was pointed out in my meeting with the KBA, which this didn't make their letter, but it seemed more like friendly amendments to the code, and I wanted to run them by you. If you go to the ordinance under, it's on page 98, subsection 6, we had that menu of options for 4 options for qualifying for the multifamily tax exemption. One of the things that they asked for, and this is something that has been done periodically, is they wanted to know whether for our mixed use building, we established a threshold that 40% of the net site area would have to contain commercial uses. And they wanted to know whether live work units count as commercial uses. And I think that from a design standpoint, if you have live work units where maybe they're initially rented as residences, but as the market for commercial property changes, they can be easily converted to commercial and they're built to commercial building codes. I would say that at least maybe 50% of the requirement for commercial could be live work units. I think we want some dedicated immediate commercial space in the building, and the live work units, I've talked to Commerce, you're not getting a tax exemption on the live work units, even if somebody's living in them. But we should clarify in the menu whether live work units meet the mixed use requirement for commercial or not. And I wanted to get the committee's feeling on that.
And is that multi-story or is that just ground floor?
That would be the ground floor unit.
Okay.
So in a lot of mixed use buildings, you'll see maybe storefronts on one corner of a street, and around the corner you'll have some residences that are on the ground floor that have little ground floor entries that are to the street. And so I think the question is, would that meet the commercial requirement of a live work building or of a mixed use building or not? And we just need to clarify it in the code. So whatever the committee wants to recommend is perfectly acceptable to me.
Well, so let me just follow on that a little bit. So if it gets under construction, how does building code treat it?
It's commercial. So it has to meet a commercial code.
Well,
Yeah, we're
I
not
think
getting
that's the
retail though. It would be, a barber shop. They're typically services, not because they're small.
right.
It could be retail, but
Architect.
I mean, I think that that's why I was suggesting that we require, right now the code requires that 40% of the ground floor area or 4,000 square feet, whichever is less, is dedicated to commercial uses. I think that 50% of that 40%, so 20%, could be live work units, but the other 20% would need to immediately be a storefront or some other retail restaurant type use. So I think we should provide some flexibility there, but not just settle for a building that is purely residential from day one and has these live work units as a way of circumventing the mixed use requirement.
Oh, so to back up, so what you're talking about, Eric, I see your hands, just hang on. Live work unit it's either or.
Correct. You can live in it and run a
Okay.
business out of the same space.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Eric, go for it.
Yep. So we're talking about, I promise you I'm following. So we're talking about all live work or 50% commercial. I think you got to have some significant commercial in there, even for the tenants.
Right.
Yeah. Am I picking up
Well,
what you're saying?
Yeah, and then the nice thing about allowing this in a mixed use building is we're actually they're paying taxes from day one on those commercial spaces, whether they're live work units or retail. And if it's retail, you're also getting sales tax and other other associated revenues. So I think we want to get some of that in any building under this menu option. But
Yeah.
I would say that, that's why I came up with the 50% of the commercial space could maybe be live work units. But we could just hold the line and say, nope, it's 40% commercial and live work units don't meet that requirement. It's really up to you.
I meant I did misspeak when I said commercial. 50% live work, and then the other percent would be retail.
Yeah, some other commercial use that doesn't include a residential option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I like the flexibility, and I think at keeping it at 50%, I could live with, on that, Eric and Scott.
50-50 is Jay, is that what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
I agree with that. Yep.
I agree. I think that helps promote the kind of the vibrancy that we're looking for as well in these areas. So I think that will be that'd be a good split.
Okay. All
Right.
right. So I'm going to redline that change into the ordinance so that, and I'll highlight it in my staff report during the hearing, that this is a land use committee recommended change from the previous version that council discussed based on the feedback that we received from the home builders.
Okay.
The second change that they suggested was under option 6D, which is projects that provide 100% of any parking below grade. They pointed out the 429 Bay Street building that's under construction, which the parking is within the footprint of the building, but because it's at sea level, you can't go down in that location. So they were suggesting that we change the terminology rather than saying 100% of the parking is below grade, that 100% of the parking is within the footprint of the primary building. And that way, if they're doing tuck under parking or some other configuration, that would also qualify for the tax exemption.
Substructure parking.
Yeah, so it's within the building. It just might not be down a level.
Right.
I can live
So-
with that.
It might be at grade too.
Right, exactly. That's what they're saying, is that you could
Yeah.
provide it at grade, but underneath the building. And I think that's a perfectly fine amendment. I think it meets the intent of what we're trying to do, which is to maximize site coverage with building rather than just surface parking lots that aren't otherwise used on upper floors.
That makes sense to me.
Eric,
Makes sense to me. I'm down.
what's the last one?
That is actually it. The other one was the affordability percentage. So I think that's all I have from you. And I'm going to jump off the meeting and let Jim wrap up.
Okay, I don't feel any need to bring KBA into this time. They can come to the public hearing. We don't
Sounds
usually.
good.
Well,
we don't-
did
yeah,
we
sure.
advise that they would be able to join in on this meeting?
I said they could be brought in as a panelist, but
Yeah, they're attendees right now, so they've heard this discussion.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to bring them in at this point in time.
Eric,
right,
what
thank
do
you.
think?
No, I'm good.
All right,
Okay.
thanks.
All
Have a
right.
good time, Nick. Be
Thanks,
safe.
Nick. Have fun.
Safe travels. All right, Jim, you're up.
What are we on now? Is that
Okay, we can go to discussion of shop front house.
yeah, so this was an item that you wanted on here, Mr. Rosapepe. And I think there's no backup provided, but as part of the comp plan, the periodic update, we redesignated some properties around the Forest Park Grocery to be NMU, RMU, which allows that kind of shop front use, or that shop front house use. And so that is retail or, some sort of service on the ground floor, and then a residential unit above. But it looks like just a house. So I'm not certain where you wanted to go with this discussion as far as citywide or what, but
I was trying to get my hand around, where we were looking at this, basically where people would be able to have a business at their home. If we were looking at trying to expand this, or is it, no, it's in code right now.
Okay.
It became kind of a topic, more from, quite frankly, on the other side of the pond. And it was something that another council member had brought up. And I just didn't know if it was something that we wanted to talk about, or we're not at that point right now.
Well, there's two. So certainly right now we allow home occupation and home businesses in residential districts, and really it's pretty wide open. What limits, I think, the like restaurants and things like that is anything that changes the fire rating of a structure is not permitted as a home business, right? So the introduction of the shop front house was a way that we could introduce those a little more intense commercial uses on a residential scale. And so we thought that, that Forest Park Grocery, most of Sydney and Klein, that area, that's all zoned appropriately to allow that sort of thing. But I don't know if you really want to introduce more intense commercial uses into the middle of neighborhoods. So I think our home business code, it addresses all of that currently.
All right. Thanks. I just was looking for a little clarification on that. Scott or Eric, need any more? That was my question.
Not at this time. It might be something that we think about again in maybe a couple years or so, but I think not at this time.
Yeah, once it draws more interest.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, and you may also recall that there was, I think maybe even Fred might have provided some information on neighborhood cafes. So this could tie into that discussion as well.
You did. That's true. Yeah.
But again, it comes down to also, the use of the facility and the permitting and changes to that. So,
Yeah.
We've designated an area. Maybe we see if anything comes of it. I mean, and how it works, but you're right. I mean, somebody puts a commercial cooking equipment in a house, it gets pretty expensive really fast to put fire suppression systems and things of that nature into an old house.
Yeah, grease traps, all that jazz is going to add up quick.
Yeah, I think jurisdictions have worked around that, not worked around those requirements, but some of the neighborhood cafes aren't using those types of facilities.
okay.
But yeah, they
Okay.
could be expensive real fast.
I think we need to have a little bit more, I guess, interest before we start looking at it. It's not, again, that was just more of a topic that I just needed a little clarification on. Co-living housing.
Okay, so we introduced this, I think the last land use committee meeting. So co-living housing, it's House Bill 1998. We have to permit co-living in any district that allows at least 6 multifamily units or a mixed-use district. So that's really R3, R4, R5, all of our mixed-use districts, and then our commercial districts. Our local rules can't exceed state building code limits for room sizes or unit configurations. Parking is also limited within a half mile of major transit stops. We don't have those by definition in Port Orchard, but a lot of the work we did with the middle housing bill satisfies these parking requirements. We also have to treat co-living the same as we would any multifamily development. So if you can't require a conditional use permit or anything like that. So they're just kind of permitted. What we have to do is permit it R3 and up. We've introduced some new definitions to kind of capture this. We're defining co-living, and we are distinguishing sleeping units from dwelling units. And this is in an effort to prevent folks from circumventing multifamily rules. We're also increasing the multifamily definition from 5 units to 6 units. That way there's consistency with HB 1998. Sleeping units, they count as 0.25 dwelling units for density calculations. And sleeping units, they count for half of a dwelling unit for sewer connection fees. So that's kind of written into the definition of what a sleeping unit is. We're also coordinating with Public Works and Finance for some potential amendments to 13.04. So that density in R3, for example, 6 dwelling units, the maximum co-living sleeping units you could have would be 24 sleeping units. We've also, in the use provisions, consolidated boarding houses and dorms into co-living. and we've clarified some mixed use thresholds. Um, we've introduced sleeping unit as a line item in the parking section so that, you know, it's very clear that what we're requiring for that. So currently we've drafted the code. The amendments, they were included in your packet. They're slightly different than what was presented to the planning commission, but we did introduce this at last week's planning commission meeting. Subsequently, we issued a SEPA determination to DNS, and we have transmitted these to the Department of Commerce for their review. And so we are planning a public hearing at the Planning Commission in November, and then this should be before the full city council November 18th. We're also planning to discuss this at next week's work study.
So my question on this is, so this includes, and I think you may have mentioned it, congregated living like the Amici house?
It's exactly what it is. And in fact, the Department of Commerce guidance has a picture of the Amici house in their
Okay.
guidance.
That's good. Yeah, Fred and I toured it last week. It was very interesting, and I'm glad we went ahead with it because I think it might be something that, you know, could take off a little bit in the future.
So one thing we did in the definition, since you've brought that up, we had several years ago created that congregate living facility definition. In that definition, there were some restrictions on location. It had to be within a center. It had to be within, I think, a quarter mile of transit. And it was also allowed in R2, which is where the Amici house is. But based on HB 1998, we've had to modify that definition and take those location requirements out. And so we're just calling that congregate living facility now co-living. And then we've also introduced a definition of congregate care facility because people get confused between the two.
Okay. Eric.
Yeah, have you heard if there's been struggles with parking with those
I've-
types? Well,
I've
Jay,
not heard anything.
you haven't
Okay.
heard about?
No.
Go ahead.
I
No,
haven't seen any problems. I walk my dog most mornings up to that park
Yeah.
right next
Well,
to it.
right now they only have like 11, 12 residents. And obviously they're bringing people in slowly.
Sure.
And so that is not an issue right now. It's very interesting, the mix of folks that they're getting between students, some Navy, military folks.
Oh, wow.
It'll be more interesting once they get a little bit more build out, but they're really going slowly to make sure that everything succeeds. So I get hold of Julie Kane or the manager there. They're more than glad to get tours. I think Rob, I think you've seen it. You know, it's definitely a great thing for both downtown and for the folks living there.
Yeah, I
think-
wasn't aware of how parking was.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
The beautiful thing is that the park that's right next door has street parking on, on DeKalb on one side, I think it's Harrison the other. So there's a lot of street parking along the park, and that's really a neighborhood park that people walk to. It's not a park. So there's a lot of parking in that area. If it wasn't a park there and those were residences, along that long stretch, it could be, the situation could be a little different, but there's quite a bit of excess parking in that area because of the park.
That's what I was wondering. So if we, started I don't know, they put a couple more in there in the area, it could be a struggle with parking. It works out well for this location.
Yeah, and it was an old church that, I don't know that they would do it again. The changing the use was expensive. Taking a church and turning into, the fire suppression system and things they had to do. I'm glad they did. I mean, it was a vacant building in our neighborhood. And I think just like the presentation we got about, the shelter, everybody was up in arms, but if you do it right and manage it right, you don't have problems. And so far that, we had that everybody in my neighborhood just hopping mad. How could we allow this to happen? You know, it's going to ruin our neighborhood. And I haven't seen that at all. And I think they're doing a good job thus far, managing it and managing the impacts.
Uh, Fred said that, the neighbor, he lives in that neighborhood also, and, it's only been positive.
Mhm. I agree.
So-
Okay. Eric, anything else? Sorry. Okay. Okay,
So I just had one observation.
sorry.
You know,
Sorry.
when people often when people don't have cars, they have bikes, and so I'm wondering if the bike requirement at 1 per 16 sleeping units is low enough.
Do you,
I don't see bikes there.
You don't see any bikes there?
No, we're walking down to the foot ferry, probably, or
Yeah,
the transit's right out on Sydney.
sure. Okay, well, keep in mind that not all of them are going to be located in that area.
Yep.
I just wondered if 1 per 16, what was the science behind that?
that really is just it's just math based on what we required for a multifamily dwelling unit, and then taking that down.
Okay. All right, so there was some thought put into it. I
So
appreciate that.
yeah, it ends up being, one for every 4 sleeping units. If I did my math right. I'm not a mathematician, but I think I did it correctly.
1 per 16 sleeping units.
Is that what it
Here.
says? 16?
Yeah.
It's intended to be 1 for 4, so
Yeah,
I'm-
it's 16 seemed pretty high, even though in this particular area. And then
I
just
I kind of agree with you. I mean, it's up to you all. You've seen it that way, but I think 1 to 4 is probably more appropriate.
yeah,
Because if you
especially
had
with
24 units or 24 sleeping units, it's only 6
Yeah.
parking bike stalls.
yeah, especially with the advent of e-bikes that are legal. The
Yeah,
legal ones that you
but in
can
that
use.
case, they should really be providing indoor storage for them, and not, because they're just going to
True
put a
that.
rack out front.
Yeah, that would be ideal. And hopefully the bike racks that we require have 2 locking points instead of the traditional one.
Our code requires that.
Yeah, good.
Dimitri
All right.
has storage inside. All
Yeah.
right.
So
I know-
you want me to make that change to be one per 4 dwelling
I
units?
think
or
it's reasonable and it's not a space intensive requirement.
Okay.
I'm leaving you guys. Go
All
for
right.
it.
See you later, Mayor.
Yeah, Mayor.
All right, inspection reports.
We do this quarterly, but this time I asked the building folks to provide kind of a year over year comparison.
Right.
So that's like kind of that second sheet there. And so now you can look at the activity this time last year to this time this year, and then obviously we can do it for both years cumulatively at the end of the year. Busy. They're still busy.
Well, I saw that, that when in our, consent agenda that we were approving, basically continued to outsource some of our permitting. So are staying busy in our building area. Any comments?
No.
No.
Keeps trends with prior year.
All right, last item was vacant lands. This came up because I just wanted a refresher on that. One of the things that we continue to have a discussion on is land that we hold. That sometimes is there, what, just kind of keep in the back of our minds. The other thing was, is there any land that we have, quite frankly, that would it be a possibility? It's been suggested that could possibly go to Habitat or Kitsap Housing, but it's not like we have a lot of disposable land.
Have we done an audit of what
Yeah.
land we might want to dispose of? I feel like I tend to agree. We probably don't have a lot of land, but is there some land that we could say we see no possible use for city functions in the future? Let's put it on the market and see what happens.
I'm not certain that that that's been undertaken citywide, but certainly when we developed the housing action plan a couple years ago, and so that's included in your packet, we did have some discussion about which ones might be viable for that type of development. But the list of properties that the clerk gave me also included in your packet. I mean, most of them have some sort of city infrastructure like the shed or a reservoir, things like that, that probably aren't practical. But as far as entirely vacant, I mean, this list is what the clerk's office has as far as inventory, and I don't see much vacant other than what's identified in the housing action plan.
Is there a somewhere on the website, or would it be difficult to provide? There's got probably the website of all city-owned properties.
Clerk maintains a list. I don't think that we make that available like spatially on any of our portals or anything like that.
But if I was to ask for,
I
if I was to
mean,
ask Brandy for that, she might have it. So I'm just really curious because this
yeah, I
topic
mean, the
spiked up
list,
in my mind going, thinking I'd like to know, what's out.
sure. I mean, the list in your packet, that's
Yeah.
something that comes from her office. But another thing you could do if you really wanted to see it spatially is you get on the county parcel viewer
Yep.
and under taxpayer, just put City of Port Orchard and it
Yep.
should populate all of them.
Well, you have taxpayer. I mean, I have taxpayer at work, but we don't have taxpayer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We
we
don't?
wouldn't. We
That's not
wouldn't
publicly
use.
available.
It's
No.
not publicly available.
That's
Oh.
that's through your system. Yes, I do the same thing. At work, right? I get a request or homeowner
Oh.
call. I just go on there and find their address, but I can't do that from home.
I thought that was just available for everybody.
No, that'd be dangerous.
I didn't realize that until like 4 or 5 years into my job either, a long time ago. That
Well,
yeah, that's just exclusive to government.
I'm almost 10 in and I just found out. But here, let me show you. I just searched
I
it.
remote in. From my work laptop, I can do that, and do it that way. But as a regular citizen, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, but we couldn't do it for work on the city.
No.
I mean, you see those, that's
I see it.
essentially it.
Oh, go ahead.
You see that? Just the
Yeah.
pink, the highlighted pink, those are
Mhm.
city-owned properties.
It'd be nice to know how much critical areas encumber some of those outliers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, that big one right there has some
Yeah.
critical areas on it. I think we're thinking about a storm
Couple.
park there, but yeah, it's certainly a mapping exercise we could undertake at some point.
Not,
Is it a priority?
I mean, anything that the council gives staff direction,
no,
it's a priority, but
this was more of a thought that I asked just to bring up. I don't think like we have the land across from Fred Meyer, that you ask what could we do with it? Obviously it's not an area you'd want to put a park, for people walking to, across Fred Meyer and then across Bethel, and stuff. It was more of a, hey, what land do we have out there? And at this point in time, I'm speaking for myself only. I feel that staff is busy enough with other items, but it's just something that maybe down the road we want to just see what we have that's large besides the property that comes up every once in a while, the little slivers that we what do we do with that, Scott? It's the right of way, when we whether it's an alleyway or something like that we
A lot of those are road vacations
Yeah.
that
so,
people put for. Yeah.
so we have a lot of those, but we don't have a lot of a major property. This is just an exercise to think about. That's all. I don't want to task staff.
Yeah,
right this.
I was actually thinking along the same lines of you, Jay, that this shouldn't be a priority when we're as busy as we are. But at the same time, is there an opportunity? Is there a slower part of the year? And I tend to know the answer to that is no. those days are gone. It used to be December, right? But not anymore. But is there a time of the year where you could reasonably pick this up and run with it over a period of time? Not a high priority and not a quick action, but maybe a moderate and slow action.
Well, right now I would say that we're down a planner.
Okay.
We've been since February. We really just have Stephanie, Connor, and myself and Nick. But we did just interview several folks actually, and made an offer to an individual, and he's supposed to start in the next couple of weeks as an assistant planner. And so I think, potentially maybe we revisit this discussion in a couple of months, see how it
Yeah.
goes, workload and
I'm happy to kick the can and see, maybe in a
Right.
couple months, we kick the can some more because of our workload.
yeah, and I think having that planner will give us some additional time to take on some more projects.
Yeah, and it is important. I put it under the banner of potentially affordable housing development. So, with that lens, I think we should, not
Right up this
forget it.
guy's alley. He has a lot of housing experience as a planner, so pretty excited to bring him on board.
Okay.
So
He's
just
not coming from Kitsap County, is he?
No,
Oh, good.
just a word of caution, is again, as John echoed last night, nobody's building any more land, so I'm not looking to say give it away. It's just, what's the best utilization of it? Because we know that there are areas of growth that we've talked about over years. Pottery, a possible police station, and things. So we keep acquiring stuff because we have growth coming. So again, it's just knowing what we have and what we have in our hip pocket. So I'm not trying to give anything away. That's not what I'm trying to insinuate. And I think kicking it down for a couple months I can live with. Eric?
Oh, yeah, we're good. So,
I have a
All right.
question.
oh,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry, Eric, finish.
No, I'm done. That's it.
Okay, I haven't thought about this before, but is it legal for the city to value add a parcel? So the Mitchell parcel, it's got a slope, 70 feet difference top to bottom. Could we come in with a LDAP and bench that ourselves and then put that on the market where it's now a more attractive piece of property?
well, if you're gonna spend any money on it, you better make sure it's in the comp plan.
True that, and you'd have to make sure you can at least recoup that in
Mhm.
your sales, but
So
um,
I
I don't
don't
know,
know the answer legally. I don't know.
I don't know if we can do that.
Yeah, it's
It just flew into my head. I don't know why.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
I
All
don't.
right. Go, Mary.
No.
Take care. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
yeah.
All right.